So one of the most asked TypeScript interview question is this: interfaces versus types. And this is one of the question which I have asked in a lot of interviews, and 99% of developers answer it in the wrong way. Now, whenever you ask them what is interfaces and types and what is the difference between them, 99% of developers will come to a solution saying that interface is something which can be implemented by a class, but types cannot be implemented by a class, right? And this is where they are wrong. Let me explain that by an example. So now, if you come to my this code editor, you can see that I'm having an interface of person, which is being implemented by this U1 class right over here. Okay. And everything is right? But same thing will also go with types as well. So if you just commit this interface right over here, let me just comment it out and let me just uncomment this type person. You can see that this person type also can be implemented by the human class, and TypeScript will not complain you. So this is not the case in TypeScript. Types and interfaces both can be implemented by classes, right? And this is not the difference. The biggest difference is, let's start all those differences one by one, right? So the first difference is the concept of declaration merging, right? So this is where the biggest difference is. So if you just uncomment all these two types right over here, you can see that TypeScript will start complaining you that you cannot have two types with the same name, right? And this is where it is saying you that duplicate identifier person, right? But this is not the case with interfaces. TypeScript do allow interfaces with the same name. So if you comment just these two and just uncommit these two interfaces right over here, you can see that TypeScript is not complaining you. And this is the concept of declaration merging, in which TypeScript will allow you having the same name of two interfaces and will also merge all their attributes into a single interface. So if you just come over here and just create a object with that person type right over here, you will get name, which is common in both interfaces, but also this edge attribute as well, because TypeScript will merge all these interfaces into a single interface. And this is where you can see that the IntelliSense is also saying that you are having that edge attribute right over here. Okay, so that's the concept of declaration merging. And the third difference is, if you come to the next file, you can see that the third difference is extending of types and interfaces. Yes, you can extend the types and interfaces both, but the syntax is different, right? So if you want to extend the person type with an employee, so you have to use this AND operator, in which I'm just extending the person type with an extra object of employee ID right over here. And same goes with the interfaces, but in the case of interfaces, you have to use that extends keyword, right? So if you just comment this thing out and uncomment this, you can see that I'm also extending that person interface from that employee. So employee is extending that person, getting that extra attribute of employee ID, right? So yes, you can extend interfaces as well as types, but the syntax is a little bit different, right? And third difference is that interfaces can only, I would say, shape your objects, right? So whenever you are declaring an interface, that always has to be object, right? So you are creating a shape of object. But in case of type, you can also define the shape of primitive types as well, something like a cache and card. And this is what you can't do with interfaces, because interfaces always have to be the type of object, right? And even you can extend this thing in further. You can even say that this payment method, so let's say payment method 2 can be a string as well as can also be a number at the same time, right? So you can shape the primitive types by using this type thing right over here, but this is what you cannot do with the interfaces, right? So these are some of the major differences between types and interfaces. Hope in the next interview you will perform well. Thanks for watching.